So here we are, and what I want to do is to do a recap of level 2. And by the way, this recap will be put into the level 2 training because actually technically it's part of the level 2 training. But I'm just doing it live here in this session. And what I want to do is a recap of what we did in the level 2 training, which was mainly focusing on 3 strategies to rediscover and regrow trust. And as we know, the 3 strategies were practicing presence, practicing acceptance, and choosing choice. So my first question is, which ones have you been using? And we are going to go through and recap, but before I go through and recap, which ones have you been using out of those 3 strategies? And what has been working for you, and what difference has it been making to you, or have they been making to you? So just take a moment and think of those 3 strategies, practicing presence, and there are many different techniques within each strategy, but out of those 3 overall strategies, practicing presence, being in the present moment, choosing acceptance rather than resistance, and choosing trust, which ones have you been doing? And how have they been working for you? What difference have they been making in your life? Just take a moment to have a think about that. Reflect on what we've been doing. So let's go through these strategies and have a recap. Firstly, practicing presence. A lovely quote from Eckhart Tolle: "As soon as you honor the present moment, all unhappiness and struggle dissolve, and life begins to flow with joy and ease. When you act out the present moment awareness, whatever you do becomes imbued with a sense of quality, care, and love, even the simplest action." And of course, Eckhart Tolle is all about practicing presence. It's very much deep core of his work. And he does it in a different way, I would say, to what, well, yes, definitely to what we've been doing. He teaches a lot through meditation. But what I wanted to do in the course was to make it really practical and tangible in everyday life. Not that we can't meditate in everyday life, but it's like, how can we live every moment in the present moment? And how can we train ourselves to do that? And as I shared before, the more unaware person will have very little space or presence in the present moment, and they may be a lot in the past in their thoughts, and they may be a lot in the future in their thoughts. And the more aware we become, the more we're in the present, and the past reduces and the future reduces, and we're just growing that present moment awareness. So also we talked about in presence the different types of fear, that primary or primal fear is in the now, and it's to do with a danger that is happening right now that we need to deal with, which we will deal with immediately now without even thinking. Whereas more mind fear, which I call secondary fear, is to do with the past and the future. And a lovely acronym for fear is false evidence appearing real. So it appears real in the mind, but it's not actually real because we've gone into the past or the future, and there is only the now. So presence is always about coming back to the now. So here are the things, or the strategies, if you like, that we went through in presence to help us cultivate and practice presence. First of all, we need to notice if we've lost our calm, relaxed, natural state, and do whatever we need to bring ourselves back to it, which means we need to have awareness of the difference between when we're in a calm, relaxed, natural state and when we're not. And then we had what I call my present moment mantra, and you can make up your own mantra. This was just the one that I used a lot last year when I was going through huge fear stuff. And I really, really dedicated and committed myself to practicing presence. So my one was, I refuse to go into the past. I refuse to go into the future. I choose to stay in the present. I'm safe in the now. So you can try that out, or you can use your own, make up your own. But the whole point is that we don't go into the past, we don't go into the future, we just stay right here, right now. And then we can also make up our own presence affirmations. For example, when we've noticed that we're going into fear or worry or doubt or whatever it is, then we say something like, there is only today, or I'm safe in the now. Again, you make up your own affirmations, and the goal is to come back into the now. Remind yourself to be in the present moment. And using our five senses is very useful, because say you're worrying in your head, worrying and fearing and doubting or whatever it is, that means that we're in our head and we're not really connected with our five senses. So once we notice we're doing our worrying habit or whatever it is, we bring ourselves back to the now, and we use our senses to sense our surroundings and our environment. So what is it that you see? What is it that you can feel, like the chair you're sitting on? What is it that you can smell? What is it that you can touch? What is it that you can hear right now? It's a very effective way for bringing ourselves back into the now. And then we can practice unification, unifying with our body, our chi, and our Shen. And we can do that through going inwards, and this is the first part of the preparation practices of the Gong methods, where we go through a relaxation exercise and we take ourselves through the different parts of our body. And as we're putting our attention on those different parts of our body, if we're really putting our attention into that part of the body, then we are unifying with it. So if we say, relax my hand, if you really put your attention in your hand, then you're unifying with your body, that part of your body. And we can unify with our chi, which of course we can also do more with the Gong practices, and we unify with our Shen, especially through going into our heart. And we can come back to the breath. When we come back to our breathing, we bring ourselves out of our head, into our body, down into the abdomen, abdominal breathing, which is also known as Dan Tien breathing. Then we come back into the present moment. So we need to get out of our head and into our body. And we can notice our feelings, notice what we're feeling, identify, acknowledge, recognize, and then deal with those feelings, clear those feelings. And notice our thoughts. We must very definitely manage our thoughts. We have 60,000 plus thoughts a day apparently, which I find extraordinary, but apparently that is so. And a lot of our thoughts can be negative or pessimistic. So we need to really be on top of our thoughts and then change them if necessary and manage our thoughts. We can also ask ourselves a question. For example, if we're in fear and we're worrying about something, we just stop and we ask ourselves, am I okay right now? Because usually we will be, because if we weren't, if we were in real danger, we'd just be dealing with the danger. So a lot of our worries and concerns and doubts and fears are this head worry stuff, going into the past, going into the future. But if we stop and say, am I okay right now? Usually we are. At least that's what I've found myself. I've honestly with all the worries and fears and doubting I've done over the last few years, whenever well, actually, it's not just few years, it's like 15 years probably. So I used to, at the beginning when I set my business up, it was just so difficult. Was I going to have money next week? But when I stopped and said, am I okay right now? And it's like, yeah, I have a roof over my head right now. I have food in the fridge right now. I have petrol in the car. I have a car. I was always okay, and yet all this worrying was going on. So I kept bringing myself back to the present moment. And also we can choose to live one day at a time, be in today. And even sometimes when things are really difficult, 1 hour at a time. So if there's a lot going on, we just say, okay, I'm not going to look past today. I'm not going to look at tomorrow or the day after that or next week or next month or in 6 months. I refuse to go there at all. I'm just going to stay, and I'm going to commit to just living in today, and I'm not going to think about anything else. I'm not going to, inverted commas, worry about anything else. And if things are really difficult and we say, I'm just going to get through the next hour, that's all I'm going to do. And that takes a lot of pressure off. It takes the fear out. It takes the worry out. And of course, we can come back to our heart. If we come back to our heart over and over and over and over again, so we bring ourselves out of the head and we come back into our heart and we feel our trust. So the second strategy was practicing acceptance. And acceptance is simple on paper. It is accepting rather than resisting what is. It is accepting reality, because whatever is happening and we can't undo it. So resisting it just creates stress. So instead we can choose to accept. That doesn't mean that we might not need to take some constructive action about what is happening, but first of all we need to accept. And in order to do that, we need to recognize first of all that we're resisting, because the resisting may be an automatic response. And often the resisting shows up as some sort of emotional response. For example, frustration and anger. That's very typically going to be an emotion that shows up when we're resisting. So we need to notice that we have the pattern of resisting, and also know that these will be connected with these, with our patterns, and then choose to accept. And then notice the difference that makes in the body. Now, there could be many things that we need to learn to accept. It could be events that are happening, situations that are happening, people, and also how we're feeling. We need to learn to accept all of it. And notice when you do acceptance rather than resistance, what difference does this make inside to my calm, relaxed, natural state? Does it restore me or move me towards restoring my calm, relaxed, natural state? And usually it will, because resisting what is creates stress. When we go into the stress response, then that creates tension and stress inside our body, and that moves us away from our calm, relaxed, natural state. So acceptance is very, very important. So also when we're accepting and we're not resisting reality anymore, we can also look deeper, because there'll always be a lesson. There'll always be a lesson in whatever is happening. And so we can ask ourselves, what am I being asked to learn here? And maybe what is the universe asking me to change? And what is the gift in that? And this means that we have to have honesty to face ourselves. As we know, we have to have honesty and courage to face the truth. For example, say you said something to somebody and they said that you were being rude, and you immediately go into defensiveness, and resisting what they're saying, and the emotions that go with that. Is there some truth in what they said? And do you need to go into your heart and acknowledge the truth of what they're saying, and learn something from that and choose to do differently? So there's there's usually some sort of lesson in the resistance that comes up. And remember, the resistance will be very connected with patterns. So it's about looking at, well, what are the patterns that are playing out here that I need to work on, and maybe identifying which patterns are in play. And there's a lovely quote here: life is always happening for you, not to you, no matter what it looks like. And this is really all about taking radical responsibility for our life and everything that happens in it, because we have to stop blaming. We have to take more and more responsibility and stop blaming and not taking responsibility. And that is the road to the true self. So every knee-jerk reaction of resistance is a sign that there is something which needs to be observed and possibly changed within us. So use the awareness of the resistance as a signpost to things that can be changed and improved. And also grow and practice your witness consciousness, which relates to what we call Jue Cha in Mingwan, which is level 9 of Wan Gong, which comes after Lingwan. But it really, really helps with growing acceptance to grow. There's a spelling there, it says grown, but it should say grow. To grow and practice this witness consciousness, this part of us that doesn't get caught up in whatever is going on emotionally and mentally. It's watching what is going on emotionally and mentally. So it's able to stand aside and witness. Practice growing that, making that part of you stronger. And again, another quote: until you're willing to own everything in the world as an aspect of you, of your consciousness, until you can make this commitment, it's still possible to blame the outside for doing things to you. That is victim consciousness. And, you know, one of the major issues in the world today is powerlessness or victim consciousness. We've been programmed and conditioned into it at a collective level. And our journey is to move from victim consciousness to self-empowerment, or to mastery, we could say, self-mastery. So what this quote is really saying is that everything in the world, which is why it says it in the Kaixing verse, heaven, earth, and teachers are all teachers with infinite wisdom. So everything is a teacher if we give it the opportunity to be so. But in order to do that, we have to take full responsibility that whatever is going on inside of us and whatever responses we're having, it's something inside of us that we can change and that we have the power to change. We're not victims. And it's our job to recognize more and more that everything is just a reflection coming back to us of stuff that we need to work on from inside of us. And as they say, the world is a mirror of the inside of us. It's just reflecting back to us. And as far as I understand, the more we move to unity consciousness and to manifesting the true self, the more we're going to see the truth of the fact that there is no separation, there is no you and me. It is like, you know, we are everything, or I am everything. So the third aspect of the three strategies, or the third strategy, was choosing trust, which means literally choosing to trust. And choosing trust is a conscious choice. It's a choice to trust, which means that we need to have awareness. We need to have awareness when we're not choosing it, and we also need to know that we can choose it if we choose to. And there's a couple of quotes here from the trust meditation. It is crystal clear to me that I need to be more trusting. I need to nurture trust, especially when doubt rears its head even just a little bit. I need to remember the best way to deal with lack of trust is simply to trust. Now, for a lot of people, when they first read that, and I know when I first heard that, it was like, what? I just choose to trust? Even though I don't trust, I've got to trust? That can be quite a paradigm shift for a lot of people for the first time of hearing this. When I feel doubt, it is a signal that I need to connect with my heart and awaken the trust within. I'm just going to read the highlighted bits in blue here. Trust builds trust. Being able to trust is a great success in itself. And this is very true. The more trust we build, the more we see the truth of that. Trust isn't, I mean, success isn't, having $1 million in the bank or the nicest house, on the street. It's what we create inside of ourselves. And I love this part, this one. You can trust because you know that when you've done your best, the universe will take care of everything. So that is very beautiful because we do our best and then the universe takes care of the rest. So to develop choice and choose choice, we have to notice when we're not in trust and then choose it. So in other words, we have to notice when we're doing all the worrying and the doubting and the fearing and on the worst case scenario thinking and all those things that we went through in level 1 and level 2, all those signs of lack of trust. We have to notice when those are happening, and then despite whatever is going on, we choose to trust. So that is a recap of the 3 main strategies in the level 2 training. And then we will move on from that and deepen it in the level 3 training.